life of sport, my life of sport.
Well, hello. Hello, everyone. We're into our third week here, and welcome to episode 3 of My Life of Sport. I'm Gavin Ingham, and this is my chat show where I talk to friends about sport and life. We're coming to you live from Gingerbread Studios here in Melbourne, and you're watching this on your phone, on Instagram Live, and we're here every Wednesday night, or you can catch this episode later on Action Replay on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. My guest tonight for episode 3, he's a comedian. There's nothing he doesn't know about cricket. Let me introduce to you BHARATH RAO.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Mate, the face was right up in the screen. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, good. You well?
Oh, mate, I can't complain. I can, but nothing really to complain about. Just got to get my camera right. Yeah, to get my beautiful background there.
What are we doing today? Tight 5, or I might go a bit over. I have a 7-minute set prepared. Yeah.
7 minutes, meaning 70 minutes. How have you been? Everyone's been in lockdown. Looks like things are going to be changing a bit. What have you been up to? I've been playing some NBA 2K, PlayStation, winning some championships, making some chicken soup, watching Michael Jordan documentaries, all sorts of stuff. What have you been up to?
Oh, it's been great. Just working out a lot, working on a 6-pack. And I don't mean this. Aside from that, doing the wine studies, then doing meditation, watching, doing a few cricket quizzes in preparation for this show.
Right.
So hopefully I'll get 1 or 2 answers right.
All right. Well, I've got my Australian Open top on, so I'll be a bit of an umpire tonight, my Collingwood cap. So, yeah, awesome. That's good to hear. I do have a quiz for you later. I've gone hard.
Fantastic.
I know you know cricket, so let's see how you go. Mate, we just got to, off the top of the show, we just got to just say thank you to our sponsor. If you can guess the sponsor for this episode, you get a year's supply of this thing. So I'll give you a hint. It's a tool. It can help you build a house. Goes very well with wood, this tool.
A chainsaw.
Chainsaw can help you build a house for sure, but that's probably the earlier stages.
Hammer or mallet.
Mate, that's our sponsor for today. That's our sponsor for this week. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You get a sponsor for just chuck it out of the... Oh, jeez. I think I might have smashed something in my bedroom, lockdown bedroom. So there you go. That's our sponsor for this week. It is a hammer. So about the show, mate, I just want to tell you that for me, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a professional sportsman, and but I wasn't good enough. I was too short and too fucking lazy. So now I work on the other side of sport. I'm a court announcer, stadium announcer, historical walking tour guide about sport. I've done comedy gigs about sport. Sport is life for me, I've realized. And so I've been thinking about these things. And, you know, I now have to live my sporting dreams through my PlayStation. And I realized that a lot of my philosophies in life come from sport. You know, if I'm failing at life at a few times or at a certain time in my life.
Doesn't sound like you, Gav. When have you failed? You've never failed.
Well, that's true. But personally, you know, like sometimes I look within and think, you know, it's a bit hard
Except for the time you failed to finish that beer.
Yeah, when it's been early hours of the morning out with you. So, you know, like, you know, the ball just hasn't bounced the right way for me, and I need to stay more patient. That's kind of what I would take away from that, because I'm trying to draw on sport analogies. So I just got to train hard and enjoy the game of life. So that's generally how I approach life. And I've been thinking about this more, and so I thought I'd get some guests, some friends on, and to talk about, if they have a craft, what they do, and they also are passionate about sport or a team. I want to see if those things cross over. So I want to know your sport history. I want to know your career and how it all sits. So without further ado, let's start the match. Haven't got my little sound machine prepared. Very unprofessional. And
let's get ready to rumble!
All right. Round one, kickoff. So, just had a look at a bit of your CV. There's a lot to get through here, but basically, I'm just going to read it here. You're quite accomplished as a person. You're fairly good at most sports, especially cricket. You've played with some famous Indian cricketers when you were growing up. You've represented your school in tennis when you were back in India. You might have been called...
Ping pong, table tennis.
Yeah, table tennis. So you might have been called Rajasthan Federer. I don't know. You become sought after in the business world with Siemens and some other reputable companies around the world and here in Australia. You worked for Essendon Football Club. That's, I'll forgive you for that. Worked for Bupa, Medibank, and you're on your way to becoming a wine sommelier. You've started stand-up comedy. Look out. That's the end of the episode. You started stand-up comedy, been doing that for 2 years. You're a cricket umpire, been doing that for about 10 years now, and you've recently just made it into the Australian stable of umpires, where you might be getting some pretty high-up matches in the next couple of years. So that's a big resume. So
fingers crossed.
Very good candidate to come on the show. So your sport is cricket. Why can you not choose a game that is quicker?
It is quick. Have you watched the 2020 game?
That's not cricket. That's popcorn.
Yeah. Or have you watched... if you'd seen the Australia game against England in most of the Ashes, that was pretty quick. They got rolled over in a session and a bit. Depends on what you see.
I'm talking about Test. I'm talking about Test cricket. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Right, so the answer is you can't. So I want to know your greatest sporting achievement. This is round one. This is about your sport. So your greatest achievement on the sporting field doesn't have to be cricket. It can be something else. Or it can be your most memorable sporting incident growing up. One of those, really quickly, what is it? Yeah,
it was a college game against Christ College. Robin Uthappa, who played for India, used to play for that team. And luckily for us, he was injured that day. They raked up 190 odd. And one of the guys who was meant to be captain was in Sydney, so I filled in his shoes. He came in later, but he could only bat at number 8 or so. And chasing 190 on a dicey wicket was pretty hard, but I made 51 and everyone else were in single digits. Went across the line, had my leg stump knocked out the ground after scoring 50.
You lost your concentration, did you? After you?
No, nothing. Just first shot across the line and went tumbling. I thought I was in, I wasn't. On wickets like that, it's hard to ever be set. We were 75 for 6 something, and I was ready to pack up the bags and leave. A quick handshake to say thanks for the game to the opposition and head off. But then the guy who flew in from Australia, who could bat at number 8, jumped in and he scored 91 not out. Won the game for us out of nowhere. That was pretty special, and I would rank it in the top 5 innings across any level of cricket I've ever seen live. It was
modest,
that good.
Very modest.
Not myself. His innings.
Your greatest sporting achievement is being on the team of someone who did outstanding work on the cricket pitch.
Yeah, I was the captain of that team.
You led them to victory. I led them to victory. Is it memorable because of the high score or because of the context of the game?
A context of the game. We weren't meant to win, especially if Uthappa had played. There was no way we would hold them to 190. He would have probably smashed a double 100 himself. And just under the circumstances, dicey wicket, 190 was a pretty big score. He had just flown in back from Sydney the night before, flew in at 1 in the morning or something, and could barely make it to the game, sat out our whole bowling innings, which is why I could only bat at number 8.
Yeah,
So
right.
I thought my innings was faultless till I got out. I've had many more higher scores, but that stands out because I didn't make a mistake on a dicey track till I actually got out. So
That's
that was pretty
impressive.
good.
So, Bharath, I just want to know who's your favourite cricket player currently in the world? Well, not currently, because nothing's happening in the world, especially no sport. But before Corona and when we go back, who is your current favourite player?
I'd have to say purely from an aesthetic perspective, Rohit Sharma. He's a mighty talent
And
very clean hitter of the ball.
Historically, who is your favourite player?
Someone who's not playing anymore, probably Tendulkar.
Oh, okay.
Sachin
And your
Tendulkar.
favourite cricket game? Mine was the, I don't know if you remember, it was on Sega Genesis or PlayStation. Mega Drive, Sega Mega Drive. No, I don't know what it was called in India, but it was the Shane Warne cricket, and it was not much animation.
Yeah.
Do you remember that game?
I do, yeah. Sega.
I loved it.
There was a Cricket 97 that came out once.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Shane Warne cricket was 99, I think. That's
yeah, Shane Warne cricket came later.
Over 21 years ago. Geez. All right. That is the end of the first quarter. We made it to going to the second quarter now. This is more about you, Bharath. So I want to know your top 5 players from your chosen sport, cricket. Your top 5, really quick.
Tendulkar, Viv Richards, Shane Warne, Malcolm Marshall, and for the 5th spot, because I didn't see them live, I'm picking 2, Don Bradman and Gary Sobers.
Yeah, right, okay. Just quickly, your favourite player favourite sports person who's not in cricket?
Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah, right. Awesome. So what's your favourite incident or memory or your favourite game from cricket? Can be an incident, can be a full game, something that you remember, not that you took part in as a fan. What was your favourite?
There are probably 2 games that I can recall almost every ball, which is the Kolkata Test, India versus Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Odds stacked, and Lakshman made 281, and India narrowly won the game. And then they won the series. That was one, and Edgbaston was another one, the Ashes, Australia, England. I think those 2 were classic games that I saw. I wish I'd seen them live. But those 2 games against the odd come from behind victories, and that changed the context of the series.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that is something about cricket I sometimes experiencing. It's a bit tough for me, not as a number one cricket fan, unlike yourself. But sometimes, when the tide is totally against, and it's a bit like tennis, not exactly, but it doesn't matter how far gone it seems, you can always come back. Certainly with tennis, but not as much with cricket. But when it does happen, oh man, it's on, isn't it? It really feels like it.
And so you can't fake it with cricket over 5 days. You have to be good over 5 days. That's what I like about Test match.
Oh, and the strategy that's involved. As a kid, I loved tuning in and out over summer. The Test matches are not so much now. It's a little too long.
And it gives you time to think.
Except on the
gives you time to think.
Boxing Day tests when good friends of mine have Cricket Australia hookups and take me to the second day of the Boxing Day test. Thank you very much, Bharath. That's the only reason
you are welcome.
Oh, that's right. You're wearing that hat. I didn't get sunburn at all because I was plastering on that sunscreen, and it wasn't even that hot. It was beautiful weather. It's just I'm a ginger. So let's get on.
And I heard you were well hydrated. as well that day.
Yeah, absolutely. No thanks to you. So let's get on to your career and your profession. I want to a quick rundown of your career. How you got to where you got about a minute in this really quickly. Hinted to me your business career and especially around the company Siemens. Tell us quickly of that, and then we'll get on to your comedy.
Oh, Siemens was it's a pretty funny story with IPL. The final was on in 2007. It was for some reason it was on a Monday evening, and usually finals happen on Saturday, Sunday nights to get in the crowd. 23rd of September was my birthday, or is my birthday. At that time, I was running operations for UK and Czech Republic. But also there were other teams who were working with United States and Canada in there. And with the timings, working in India, about 5:30 India time is about 9:30 in the morning United States time. And the match was on at 7:30 India time, 7:30 p.m. And because it was my birthday, the UK guys and the Czech Republic guys wanted to take me out to dinner. I didn't want to elaborate one, but I wanted them to be happy because we were about to get on a conference call. Team members were saying, we're not going to work today. We want to watch the T20 World Cup final. And it was India-Pakistan.
You currently got about 30 seconds till we have to move on, sorry.
took them out, had the vodka pani puri, which I'll prepare for you. They had no idea that there was alcohol in it. All the UK guys came back pretty jolly, and we then put in the word saying we're not going to work for the next 3 hours because we have a cricket game to watch. And they were on our side. The Czech Republic guys, Canada didn't mind it, but the United States people wanted us to work through. They didn't understand cricket and it was about themselves. They got voted out 2-1. We ended up not working for 3 hours or so. It was pretty cool. The whole of Siemens India had shut down for 3 hours.
It seems to be an IT problem. We can't fix it. I don't know what's going on. Just tell them it's just like baseball. Come on, it's our version of baseball. Awesome. So you got a bit of a business acumen as well. And then what happened 2 years ago, or way before that? Really quickly, what happened? What spurred in you to go? I want to try stand-up comedy. We've got a picture here of you recently. You're the hardest working comedian in comedy. I know at the moment. You're 5 times a week. You're at open mics and all over Melbourne. And recently in lockdown, I saw you were still doing some comedy. You were doing some comedy at Fed Square. They did a live broadcast of comedy, and you can't. My head's in the way here, but we'll just swap them around. You can't. That's rubbish. That picture is rubbish. Anyway, there you go. Your gig was broadcast to Fed Square, where there was no audience because everyone was in Corona lockdown. So your fat was shown all over Fed Square. That's incredible.
No, I was entertaining all the homeless people.
Yeah,
and the cab drivers.
That would have been
the taxi rank.
Would have been a bit odd to stand-up comedy to a flat screen. So really quickly, in about a minute, we'll get onto comedy a bit later more, but what spurned for you to want to try to get into comedy after leading a boring business and boring cricket life that you want to get into doing some stand-up comedy?
That was it with the business. I ran insurance teams for Bupa and Medibank, and that was a country leader role. I had a team of business development managers reporting into me from different states, and their job was to pitch to CEOs, CFOs of organizations and things around those lines, which and insurance can be a bit of a boring subject. And we'd done all the Toastmasters and everything else to death. So I thought it would be good for them to introduce a bit of humor into their daily activity to capture attention. And I told them that, hey, why don't you do this comedy course? I just Googled School of Hard Knock Knocks, and I just Googled comedy courses, and School of Hard Knock Knocks came up. Maury will be happy with the search engine optimization. SEO.
So you went along, did the course for your business
I didn't.
life.
Yeah, I did it for the business life, but then had way too much fun, and
Oh, really? It was just a bucket list. It was just a means to an end, but you got caught up in doing comedy.
caught up in doing that. Yeah, and even by Tuesday night or something, I went, oh shit, this is probably what I want to do a bit more of.
So like
And
2 nights. So
Tuesday,
you went and did,
2 nights in.
it was like 4 or 5 nights this course, and 2 or 3 nights in, you were like, "Yep, I'm
Third
hooked."
night in, I went,
Yeah, right.
oh yeah, this is
awesome.
it's not bad.
That's awesome, and you've certainly changed up the Melbourne comedy scene as it is. This is what usually happens after you get a lot of selfies every time you do a gig with every comedian in Melbourne, and usually having a few frothies. I was at your first gig. I did the sound for that gig.
You did?
And you had 11 beers by the time that you got up, and yeah, it was true. It was truly amazing.
I had 10. I was on the 11th one.
Oh, sorry.
So still in my senses.
So,
Barely.
If, 10 or 11, what's the difference, you know? All right, so that is the end of the first half, Bharath. Congratulations. You have made it through the first half. Traditionally, for kids in sport in Australia, we have oranges at half time. Sir, we sent over some oranges.
Wow.
Did you get the package?
I did.
Oh,
They're great. They are great.
Dig in. These days, kids have lollies.
Now we go with the healthier option, get a bit of vitamin C.
Bit of tradition. Yeah, not much of us are seeing the sun at the moment. We're all in lockdown, so yeah, we've got to get some sort of health from somewhere else. So at halftime, have you got a spray prepared for us? Want to hear a bit of a halftime spray, something to get us over the line for the second half. The score, let me just check the score at halftime. You were up at end of the first quarter, and now you're down massively at halftime. So you need to give us a bit of a spray, coach's spray, get us over the line for the second half.
If it seems, it spins. Also, if you ain't first, you're last. Get out there and win.
Did you write this down? You prepared this? What was the first one again? If it what?
Do you remember Shane Warne? He keeps saying that all the time. If it
spins, it wins.
If it seems, it spins. Or if it's
what does that mean?
Bouncy track. It means nothing. It's just it's just something he likes to say among a million things. They used to take the mickey out of him for doing that.
Just got to sell some. Got to sell some more books.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sledge? You're an umpire now. Cricket. What's your favorite sledge that you've heard through hearsay around the world? Famous athletes, or yourself on the cricket pitch. What's the best sledge you've ever heard?
It was my first game of umpiring, and with that you travel through the grades, doing a lower grade one. We rock up, and they have a new captain. He weighs about 130 kilos.
How tall?
Everyone calls him Barrel. That's how I remember him. And he's talking to his team like he's the man about town. You go, okay, yeah, he's well in charge. Comes up, gets knocked out first ball of the batting innings, clean bowled, and they make about 90 odd or something, and he opens the bowling as well. Gets smashed for about 18 runs in the first over, goes parks himself at first slip and drops 2 catches. And by this time, he's lost currency with his team members. And then he goes on to bowl the third over of the innings after getting smacked for 18, and they're only defending 90. And the best sledges were coming from his own team members. They're going, oh, you couldn't catch a cold in a rain, or if your hands were as big as your mouth, maybe you would have caught one. The best one was someone else yelled out to him, going, oh God, you're not bowling again, are you? And his other team member yells, at least if he's bowling, we know he's not fielding.
Jeez.
They were just giving it. He was the captain of the team, and his own team members were sledging him. I found
That's
that a bit
hilarious. That's hilarious. All right. We have reached the third quarter. It's the championship quarter. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into your sport experience here, Bharath. And here's where you need to, you're a big cricket nut. You know, a lot of statistics. So I've got a bit of a quiz for you. This is the Gavin's Cricket, Wikipedia Cricket quiz. The Crickepedia quiz. So, number 1. Donald Bradman's average batting average, 99.94. Not hard. What was his bowling average? You got 3 seconds.
Gosh. 0. Not sure. Did he bowl?
36. What was his best? Do you know what his best was?
1 for 36.
No, 1 for 8. And do you know how many sixes he hit in his career? I saw this. I was a bit shocked by this. How many sixes do you reckon he hit in his whole life?
Single digits?
Yep, yeah, it's in single digits.
2 or 4?
6.
Wow.
I guess that, you know, it's a different game back then.
He planned it. He planned it 6 sixes.
Yeah, T20 wasn't around back then. Number 2, the greatest Indian cricketer. His nickname is the Little Master. Who is this?
Sachin Tendulkar.
No, I'm sorry. It is. Got this answer from Donald Trump. No, I got this from Donald Trump. The answer is
From Sachin Tendulkar.
Must be his identical twin.
yeah. So you didn't get that one right. Sorry. Number 3, Sri Lanka has how many victories against Australia?
In what?
Oh, cricket. Total.
50?
1. That's what Wikipedia said, so I don't know. I don't know what. That's what it said. All right, number 4. So these 3 players have one other player in common. Can you tell me what? Alistair Cook, Michael Clarke, and Brendan McCullum. I'll give you. Yeah, they have a player in common, and I'll give you some numbers as well. So Alistair Cook, 294. Michael Clarke, 329. Brendan McCullum, 302. There's a player that's in. There's a player that's common. That is in all 3 of those numbers. 3 seconds. His name is Ishant Sharma. Yes. These 3 gentlemen made those run totals, massive run totals, after being dropped early on in their innings by that player, Sharma. He is the reason why.
Did he drop McCullum as well?
Yeah.
I know he dropped Michael Clarke, but all right.
Number 5, and this is the last question. You need to pull out some. You got to get 36 runs off this last over. Who is the only Indian player to score a century in the knockout stage of a World Cup?
Which World Cup was this?
Any World Cup. In the knockout stage. 3 seconds.
Hang on.
Ganguly.
Oh, that was against Kenya, 2003.
Now, I can see your eyes off to the side. You're
Yeah.
looking at a screen after you're
No.
typing up the answer. Yeah, it's going to be interesting this year. See if India come out for the Boxing Day test. We were talking about that a bit earlier. I'll be
They
putting my
said
hand
that
up
there would be.
for tickets. If you can get us some tickets.
If it's on and if they let us in, for sure we'll be getting some tickets to that.
Absolutely,
And,
you might know half the people in the team. So I want to know some funny stories about cricket. I've also heard bits and pieces of you telling this story, but I can't remember it. Something about Michael Clarke's Test debut and Mark Waugh.
Yeah, Clark was debuting in the 2004-5 series in India, and this was played.
Time's flying.
Time's flown. It was in Bangalore, where I was living at that time in India, and luckily for me, most of the games I would sit in the corporate box back there. As I was sitting and watching the game, it's called the tea stand just outside the corporate boxes. And I could see someone sitting there who looked like Mark Waugh. I wasn't sure it was him. So I walked up to him, and Darren Lehman had just gotten out, and Australia were 125 for 1 or 124 for 1, and they'd lost 4 wickets for another 25 runs. They weren't doing too well. I thought I spotted him, went there, asked him for an autograph. Selfies weren't common at that time, so he just told me to piss off. He told me to piss off, and I went, shit. Mark was a bit up to himself. And went back to the commentator's box and sat near Dean Jones was the commentator at that time, Australian commentator, and Shivram Krishna and Manjrekar. And I knew Manjrekar quite all right. And I said, what are you doing? I told him, look, Mark Waugh told me to piss off.
Yeah.
Okay, sat here. During tea time, they invited him inside, and then he took me back to the stadium, and he went, no, it's all right. I get a bit annoyed when people bother me, especially when Australia is losing. And by tea, Clark and Katich had put on a 100 partnership or something like that. So and that was pretty. He was in better spirits, and he'd had a couple of beers by then, and he was in really good spirits. Started to talk to me about fielding and so on, and went into the technical details of it with the seam of the ball and fielding at first slip. And
wow. And he got his signature.
I did, yeah. It's all sitting at home in India.
Awesome. So that's the end of the third quarter. You've gotten a little bit back ahead, but the others aren't out of the race yet. So going into the fourth quarter, and we've got a letter here. I've got an email from a regular viewer of the show, this being episode 3, and this being 2 weeks into my life of sport. They've watched every episode, and they've sent in a letter asking a question of you because they knew you were on the show, and they've said, Bharath, I've been watching since episode 1, and you're the best guest that's ever been on here. And I'm writing this from the past, and I know you're going to be the best. She's got a question. She asks, in cricket in India, do they drink tea at tea time? This is a 2-part question.
You do get masala chai.
Right. That's the second
as an
question.
option.
Is it called tea time in India, or is it called chai time?
Tea time. Should be called chai, but it's called tea time.
There you go. Well, Kathy, I hope you enjoyed Bharath's question there. So I want to get more into your career. And so you kind of have 2 things. You have your business side, and when you work business, which can be a bit dry, and also comedy. And both I know of you, and you and I, we went to Adelaide Fringe Festival and did some comedy over there this year just before Corona came and stole our dreams away. And we had a fantastic time over there. drinking
great
some
time.
beautiful
Fantastic.
wine and beautiful whiskey, and had a great time. It was awesome. And so, yeah, so we chatted a bit and found out some information about you. And one thing I did find out was that you definitely like craft. You like the craft of wine. You like the craft of sport, the craft of your work. You take these things very seriously. And so that's
Yep.
very much a thing like sport as well. Sportsmen really think about the craft of what they do. So I want you to tell us, I've got a couple of minutes here. Do you draw from one from the other? Like I was saying before, if I have a bad comedy gig and a joke doesn't land, then I just think, it just bounced the wrong way, or it landed on a stone on the wicket, and or the wind, or whatever, like
Yeah.
I'll look at the tape and I'll reassess and see how we're going. So for you, is it the same? Do you draw life philosophies? Do you draw sport philosophies into your professional life? Comedy
Yes,
or
there's
business?
there's about 5 things I can draw a line across in terms of similarities with comedy, with business, with wine tasting, with cricket umpiring, and jiu-jitsu. With all 5, it's you got to stand on your own feet and make those decisions. When you have a mic in your hand with comedy, it's up to you what you're going to say next, and then depending on the crowd's reaction, you might want to change things around for your next joke, and you got to think on your feet quite a bit. Same with cricket umpiring as well. Bowler makes an appeal. You only have about 2 or 3 seconds to make a decision, take in all the information, and then go yes or no, and you got to live with it.
And you don't know when that's going to come, the appeal.
Nah. Same, you could get a heckle as well in comedy, and you don't know when that's going to come. Same with jiu-jitsu too. There's no one, as much as people think it's about bashing someone or doing something else, it's very cerebral. It's almost like a chess game. It's can I get them in a chokehold? I may not be able to get a rear naked choke because I'm a short guy, so I got to think on my feet and go, what else can I get them into? Maybe I'm better off on the ground as opposed to standing upright, because then they're down to my size and I can put them into arm locks. I can put a kimura lock. So it just comes down to the mechanics of it and being able to think on your feet. Even with wine tasting, it's very cerebral as well. It's a very fussy alcohol compared to the rest, like beer, whiskey, and so on. Good ingredients make for a good product. But with wine, good ingredients is just one side of the story. You also have the climate, the soil, this, that, and everything, which may not be under your control. So I find that very fascinating. In business world, it's pretty similar. You got to be constantly thinking on your feet if you're fronting up to a CEO and taking up a lot of their time. You got to say the right things, make it worth their while as well. So it's pretty common, even though it seems very varied. I find it's the more I start to learn, the more similar they all sound.
Yeah, interesting. And you told me you're reading a book recently that George, really, really famous comedian, very popular as
Carlin,
well.
George Carlin, yeah.
Yeah, very well respected book that he swears by, The Act of Creation. And I think it's by Arthur Koestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're finding things in that as well that are speaking to the things that you have passion and apply craft to?
Massively. It's one of those where even in the very beginning, the foreword and the first chapter, he starts to talk about the sage, the jester, and the artist, how good comedy comes from a combination of all 3. And what it means is a jester is someone who is there for the laugh, can be a bit more aggressive, say what you feel like, but then it needs to be balanced with the sage aspect. The sage aspect is let there be some truth behind it, or give people some factual information which they can take away, and then the artist marries up both those 2 aspects, the outrageousness of the jester and the level-headedness of the sage, and the things they speak about. And I found that really fascinating. But when I put it in the literal context of growing up at studying history books, looking at various kingdoms that ruled India and so on, it was always the case. Every kingdom had a king, a court jester, a sage who was the king's advisor, and an artist. It was a common theme. So, yeah, I find that very fascinating. And you draw upon that and you try and tinker with your jokes to make sure, how can I give people, as soon as you say something factual, people like to cotton on to it. You give them facts, figures, data. It's a good way, and then you bring in the twist. Yes,
Yeah.
I want to do more of that moving forward.
Yeah, we'll touch base once Corona ends and we'll all get back to being in front of the mic. And you certainly will have a lot of opportunities to do it, since you like to do open mics 52 times a week. We had a great experience in Adelaide at
awesome.
At Cranker Comedy. It was I really loved that night. It was fantastic. Both of you and I thought we did stupidly well. It was fantastic.
I thought that was one of your best sets. It was amazing.
Oh, thanks, mate.
I've
awesome.
heard that set about 10 times or so, and I was still pissing myself laughing.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
It's a bit weird. I had some jokes in there that are made up about girlfriends, partners that aren't true. It's stories I've stolen from other people, but in the audience was my current partner, and my ex partner who'd been was with 20 years prior, and they met, and it was not weird because we're all adults now, but it was kind of a bit weird. And on stage, I had a moment just going, because it's the lights in your eyes and you can't really see it. I think they're sitting there and there, and I'm talking now about a girlfriend that's not real to my girlfriend who's real, and my other girlfriend who was real, and she's not dead, but she may as well be. Then they met afterwards, and that's the end of the match, and the scores are tied. Barath, we have to go to extra time. So what we've got to do, I've just got my trusty whiteboard, and I want you to tell me your favourite sporting film. Is it Moneyball? Is it Rocky? Seabiscuit? Debbie Does Dallas? Tonya, Longest Yard? Remakes? White Man Can't Jump? What is your favourite film? Matt O'Neill had Escape to Victory, football film. Yeah. Last week, Aaron Gox had Happy Gilmore. What's yours, sir?
I have two. One is Moneyball, which you mentioned.
Yep.
And the other one is a movie called Fire in Babylon. It's about Caribbean cricket. It's just brilliant.
Yeah,
the West Indies and their how they break the shackles of apartheid and become a world power when it comes to cricket.
Only putting Moneyball in there for today. We'll get that other one, put that in there later. I'll put it in there for next week. So at the end of the match, this is the overtime extra period, the goal shootout, penalty shootout. To win the match, Barath, you've got to tell me, in a fantasy world, who would you kill to have been on the sporting field and to replicate their sporting heroics? Johnny Wilkinson, 2003 Rugby World Cup, England versus Australia, the field goal at the end of the match. Michael Jordan, the last shot. There's countless. It doesn't even have to be a famous one. It can just be one that you like.
Yeah.
It can be something your mum did. What fantasy would you, as a kid, relive in the school playground and reenact? What have you got?
Tendulkar 98 against Pakistan 2003 World Cup at Centurion, 1st of March. It was an impossible chase almost, given the bowling attack that Pakistan had, and the stakes were really high. Super 6 game to qualify for the semi-final there to beat Pakistan, and he came up with the goods. I think he scored it off 75 balls or something. And the attack at that time was Akram, Waqar Yunus, Shoaib Akhtar,
Jeez.
Razak, and it was...
Even I know those names.
Yeah. They're famous. And Saeed Anwar, he'd done nothing the whole World Cup, and he scored 100 when it came the Indian game. Put them right in the mix to win the game, and Tendulkar took it all off. Without his innings, India would have lost that game and would have probably not made it to the semi-finals. But that was a cracking counter-attack.
So that's what you would relive. That's what you would.
Yeah.
That's what you would.
It was Pakistan, India-Pakistan, probably the biggest rivalry in cricket. And that was one where...
Certainly not in the world of sport. I'd say Collingwood and Carlton would be bigger than that. Collingwood, Essendon, Anzac Day. Come on.
Collingwood against anyone. Okay. Pretty much everyone.
Rajasthan Royals.
Rajasthan Royals. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
That.
That's absolutely tremendous. That is absolutely full time, and Bharath, it's really odd. Just checking the score, just like Tendulkar in his 98 and 2004, like you just said, you've done the same. You've pulled it out of nowhere, and on the last ball, you've whacked it for 36. Hit it, it's bounced back, you hit it again, you've got 6 sixes in the last ball. That's absolutely impossible, and you've won the match. So congratulations, you've won the match for yourself.
Impossible is nothing. Is that which tagline is that?
Gated? No, impossible. Nike? No, I don't know.
Nike is just do it.
It's Bharath Rao. Get that tattooed there. Every key. All right, so we've just got to do the post-match wrap-up now, the interview. So give us a bit of a post-match interview. How did you think you went in the game? What do you think you can improve on? And what are you looking forward to for the season?
Yeah, I thought it went all right. You got to put in the hard yards, day in, day out. Put in the work, keep it in the corridor of uncertainty, try to hit the top of off every time. And more often than not, I think it'll put you in a good shape when it starts to get to the business end of things. It's just about keeping your eye on the ball, not getting too far ahead, playing it one game at a time.
Doing it for the boys.
Doing it for the boys. Treat the ball on its merit. Not get too far ahead of yourself.
And just be in the moment.
That's it.
You're a little bit too good at that. That's hilarious. That's amazing. Well done. So we've got a couple minutes left. What are your plans after Corona as far as comedy goes? What are you going to do? You're going to be hitting the open mics if we get open mics, or we have to wear masks, or you have to take your own wipes to wipe the mic with. When everything gets back to normal in 2032, what's your plan comedy wise?
Comedy, I was actually thinking of going to India and doing a bit of a tour there this year, and also doing a bit of a trip around the United States, but that's all not going to happen at this point in time. So write more material, wait for it, and wait for things to settle down. We'll see how it goes.
It's all we can do at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. At least it's given me some time to study for the wine course and clear that.
Become a sommelier. So where can we catch you? What social medias are you on? You're obviously on Instagram. That's where
Instagram and Facebook. So those two, and LinkedIn as well. But you're not going to find any selfies on LinkedIn.
That's your business. That's your business social media. All right, so I'll put those links up at the end of the episode and here now in the edits later on when put this episode up on YouTube and Facebook. I just want to thank you for coming on, Bharath. Thank you so much. It's been very enjoyable. There's more to unmind. We'll get you back on for another episode. And one last task. You got to give a shout out. You you've got about 15. You've got a 15-second period to pump up next week's guest. You might know him, you might not know him, Bharath. So you just got to give your best 10, 15 seconds to pump up this guy. I'll tell you about him. He's an entertainer. He's a ska lover. He has a radio show. He's a host of this radio show of ska and sport as well. He's the world's greatest sporting fan. He traveled to he saw 365 different sports in 365 days all around the world, and made some content about that. He's a Guinness World Record holder. His name is Kieran Beefy Blake. He's next week's guest. You know him, so give us a big pump up. 10, 15 seconds. Go.
Guys, this is the best guest that was ever on and will ever be on this show. Please log in. Whatever you're doing, drop your plans. Come on and have a look. He said Kieran, but I know him as Big and Beefy. That's because he's larger than life. Please listen to him and watch him. He is fantastic. Good person. I'm great to be having him.
Oh, tremendous.
On next after me. That's fantastic.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Bharath. We now have also another promo. Sorry about last week's promo. Goxie sprung it on him. I forgot to tell him your name, and then he went to go. He went to start, and he then said, "What's the guy's name?" And I said, "Oh, sorry, Bharath Rao." And he was already halfway in, and he just said, "Oh, come on next week. This guy's really good. You saw it. He's hitting sixes. He's bowling googly. He's hitting around the wicket, and his name's Bharath Rao." And he says, "Is that his name?" And I said, "Oh yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, that's fine.
It was hilarious. Bharath, thank you so much.
But seriously, Big and Beefy, I'll be logging in next week to watch him. He's really that damn good.
Oh man,
it'll be a fun episode.
I don't know if there won't be enough time. These lives only go for an hour, so I'll probably just be able to talk about one thing with him. Won't be able to talk about everything.
Which is prawn nachos with prawns.
I don't know that story. We'll talk about that.
He'll tell you that.
Nachos with prawns, yeah, awesome. Bharath, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and everyone who's watching. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 3 of My Sport of Life. We're live on Instagram every Wednesday night. You can catch the action replay of this episode on Facebook and YouTube. Big thanks to my guest tonight, Bharath Rao. He's this week's opening batsman. Follow him on his socials. We'll put those up. And you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tinder. No, you can't. I'm just talking about my girlfriend. Hopefully she's not watching, or I might have to go back on Tinder. Yeah, cheerio, everyone. Thank you so much. See you next Wednesday live from Gingerbread Studios with super sport fan, ex-professional cricket player, Beefy, on more My Sport of Life. And thank you so much, Bharath. Talk to you soon.
See you, man.
That is full time.